Appreciate you for showing up. Oh, man. All right, we'll do that. First and foremost, all donations, all love pledges can be sent to Cash App. All right, that's if you're feeling generous. All right, not asking necessarily for it. All right, but anywho, we want to talk about. Take this down. We want to talk about what does it mean to be a national citizen. Yeah, that does remind me. Damn, man, still. Let me see here. Where exactly did I put the wrong one? We are going to speak about national citizenship and its implications. I truly feel as though a lot of us are not quite sure what citizenship relates to. You know, at least that's what I've come to notice. Most people are not familiar with the idea of national citizenship. All right, so nationality equals culture. Citizenship equals practice. Okay? Cultural practice. Your nationality. Matter of fact, yeah. I'm going to be using Black's Law Dictionary First Edition. If you wish to speak or engage, you have to subscribe. Your live is not eligible for recommendation and restricted in search results because it primarily directs people off the platform. This is in line with the For You feed eligibility. What? So I guess they're attempting to cut my live feed. All right, so it's about to cut me off, y'all. Oh well. Oh no, it didn't. Didn't cut me off. All right, I thought it was gonna, but we're cool. We're cool. All right, but like I said, if you wish to actually engage and speak, you have to be a subscriber. All right. So what I was saying, we're going to be using the Black's Law Dictionary First Edition. Your nationality and your citizenship must work together in order for redemption to be more than just an idea. And just for the record, my national citizenship identity is Muslim Pennsylvanian American. I am a Muslim and a Pennsylvanian American. That is my national citizenship. My nationality is Muslim. I am a Muslim. My nation is Pennsylvania. And my allegiance to my nation or my citizenship is also to the state of Pennsylvania. Right? It is through my nationality that I'm able to offset, discharge, settle, and balance accounts. Right? Expressing my national citizenship, expressing my trust in my estate, in the state that issued it to me. All right, so nationality. All right. And I'll read it to you. Equality. You know what? I know the whole well. Nationality. That quality or character which arises from the fact of a person's belonging to a nation or state. So your nationality arises from the fact of your estate, your person, your estate, belonging to either a nation or a state, or a nation state. Appeal not approved, whatever. Whatever. I ain't worried about that as long as they ain't cut the feed, right? So all right. So let's talk about nationalization versus naturalization, because we have a lot of people confusing the two. We have even more people stating that as Moorish Americans, people are supposed to naturalize rather than nationalize. And so I would like to bring this to your attention, right? the nationalization of property is an act which denotes that it has become that of the nation. By some process of law, whereby, check this out, whereby private individuals or corporations have been, for specified reason, have been for a specified reason deprived thereof. Okay? So that's nationalization. All right? Now we're going to look at naturalization. And then we're going to see what we're talking about here. All right. Let me get the back scratcher pointer thingy me jigger. All right. So we have nationalization, which is, it says the nationalization of property is an act which denotes that it has become that of the nation. So the property has now become that of the nation. This is what nationalization does. By some process of law, whereby private individuals or corporations have been, for specified reasons, deprived thereof. Would you like me to show you what that is? Nationalization refers to House Joint Resolution 192 and the suspension of the gold standard. Naturalization is the act of adopting an alien, so an outsider, into a nation and clothing him or her with all rights possessed by the natural born citizen. So for you Moorish Americans out there stating that Moorish Americans are supposed to naturalize, what you're saying is that we're aliens to American citizenship and that we need the authority of another to accept us into the nation. That is not what the Moorish Divine National Movement is about. However, you know what? Let me reiterate. Right, the gold standard suspension. This is the emergency banking relief act. So again, the nationalization of property. So you nationalize your property, okay, is an act which denotes that it has become that of the nation. So there is a pledge. Your property is being pledged to your nation state. It says, by some process of law, whereby private individuals or corporations have been for specified reasons deprived thereof. Okay? What does Noble Jew Ali say about the situation? Noble Jew Ali speaks specifically on nationalization, and he even makes mention of an emergency banking act. Let me read to you. All of this brings you to this, which allows you to utilize the Emergency Banking Act. All right, so while all of your gurus are explaining to you how to do things with paper in the public, right, and send things, there's nothing wrong with that. But this is your key. This is your activating mechanism, your passport. And this is why your gurus, they look like they're living the life, but they can never tell you how to do it. I tell you how to do it. But anywho, let's read this, right? So I'm going to qualify the statement first, right? We are being taught banking procedures, how to bank prior to the Emergency Banking Act, and there is a provision in here letting us know, foretelling us of an Emergency Banking Act. Okay. It's called Think This Over, You Moors. Okay. It's in the Moorish literature. All right. It says, think this over, you Moors. All sheikhs, grand sheikhs, must prepare for the Prophet before he comes to visit. Must see to it that all is clean and in perfection as far as comfort is possible. As far as comfort is possible, or otherwise do not arrange to have his presence. Here's the banking. All members should pay from 25 to 50 cents weekly towards the emergency fund. So that's your Social Security right there that he's making mention of in those days. This fund will increase so that it will soon amount to the grand sum of $1,000. That is, if you are faithful Moors, loyal Moors. So again, all of these people out here telling you, oh, you're not supposed to pay Social Security and all of that, they're bugging. Because Social Security, the debit of the Social Security is what backs the credit of this instrument. All right, listen to it. He says, this fund will increase. Oh, okay, we read that part. It says the emergency fund goes into the bank. The treasurer, like the U.S. Treasury, the treasurer today, will tend to the responsibility of seeing that the money is in the bank, yes, and under the name of the Moorish Science Temple of America Finance. And so today, what was the Moorish Science Temple of America Finance then is the U.S. Treasury Department of your state. It's in the name of your state. Pennsylvania has a treasury. New York has a treasury. You understand what I'm saying? All right. Now listen, right? He says, when needed. When needed. Not if needed, not should it ever be needed, not maybe needed. He says when. So this is a projection. This is a foretelling. When needed. Act according to the law pertaining to the procedure of performing an emergency act. So what happened with the Emergency Banking Act? All of the nations had to pledge their collateral to the government. And again, what is nationalization? Nationalization, the nationalization of property, is an act which denotes that it has become that of the nation. So the act of nationalizing is giving your property to the nation, right, by some process of law where private individuals, you're private, right, or corporations, I'm corporate, have been for specified reasons deprived thereof. Deprived of what? Their property. Right? So, Drew Ali is explaining to the Americans that this was coming. This Emergency Banking Act, this relief was coming. And he expressed to us, when needed, act according to the law pertaining to the procedure of performing an emergency act. So Drew Ali just told you to utilize House Joint Resolution 192 whenever it came into effect. This information by Drew Ali was completed by 1920, we'll say by July of 1929. This was already completed. The crash, the economic crash hadn't even settled yet. It hadn't even started yet. All right. Drew Ali instructed all of the people, pull your money out the bank. Why? Because if your money's in the bank, whenever this reset happens, you're losing all of that. You're losing all of that. But if you pull it out and you have it, when the reset comes in, what can you do? You can now pledge it. So what did he say again? All members should pay 25 to 50 cents weekly towards the emergency fund. This is your emergency fund. The Social Security policy is an emergency fund. How do we know? Because whenever you're down and out, you can claim benefits against it, right? Whenever you're in need, you can get it based upon what you've given, right? And then once you've pledged it and you receive your credit, you are now aligned with your treasury. Absolutely. All right? So we're going to speak briefly about naturalization. What is naturalization? What is an example of naturalization? Let's say that a family from China moves to Pennsylvania and they have Chinese citizenship. They are an alien to Pennsylvania because they are a national, a citizen, or a subject of the Chinese government. Now, because America is not in China, China is not at liberty to assist this Chinese family here in America. So what that family would do is they would naturalize. They would say, hey, while we're here, we desire to be recognized as Pennsylvanians, right? The act of adopting an alien into a nation or state, or a nation state, and clothing him with all rights possessed by the natural born citizen. So again, these Moorish Americans telling you about naturalization, they are stating in essence that Moorish Americans are foreign to America. Noble Drew Ali never said that we were foreign. Not even in the least. So, again, the Moors talking about naturalization, they're off. Naturalizing, if you were naturalized, that means you could be kicked out. Right? If you don't abide right, you can be kicked out, not exiled. Natural born citizens can be exiled. Natural born citizens can be exiled from the nation that they were adopted into. Excuse me. Yes, not exiled. Aliens can be put out. All right? But natural born citizens can only be alien. They can be exiled from their homeland, but they will always still forever be that national identity of people. All right? I know what I'm looking for. There it is. So we go further. We go further in here with Drew Ali. He says, no head of any said temple is to borrow from any member more than $5 to $10 unless by notification of the prophet, the necessity for the loan. So we were being told that we could take out loans. Again, this is when you are in need of Social Security benefits. This is the loan you're taking back, but it's reciprocated, right? Your intention is to not live off the loan, but to be able to pay it back. All right, but anywho, it says when any said temple. Now, mind you, right? Mind you, I need you to take with it in conceptually. Anytime you hear the term temple, think of your state. Temple and state. The temple is the nation. The temple is the national religious. Right? Your state is what houses it. Right? Your temple and your state are one and the same, is what I'm trying to explain. So it says, no head of any said temple or state is to borrow from any member more than 5 to 10. Okay, I read that. It says, when any said temple desires to purchase property, they must first notify the grand body or the prophet. So if you're familiar with your state, in order for the state to take over some land, if you will, it has to have a board meeting with the governor, the lieutenant governor, the recorder, the secretary. That's what this is expressing. The grand body is all of the administrative, the fiduciaries who have been elected to be the representatives of the people. All right. He says, and it must be purchased under the name MSTA or Noble Drew Ali, meaning it must be any property that is bought or purchased through the state. It must be in the name of the state or in the name of the state's professional representative. Okay? He said an individual name He said that an individual name should never be applied. This is an individual. This is a sole proprietorship. This is an individual entity here. We're being told that this should never be used. You should not use this whatsoever because this is an individual, and he's saying that it should never be done as an individual due to the liability that comes with the ownership. If you are an individual, you assume all liability. If you are an organization, then liability is meted out. It is distributed. It is not all on your own shoulders. Or for real explanation, the state now assumes all liability. Drew Ali says, I, Noble Drew Ali, am responsible for all finance. So he just told you he's the auditor. He's responsible for all finance. So therefore, let I, the prophet, know what is on me. Okay? Give me one moment to do what it is that I am doing. Brother Lukman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Wa akhfirullah. Alhamdulillah. Because I do see you in the room, beloved. So, all right, back to it. Drew Ali says, some of you Moors, some of you have slipped and have slipped drastically. So you had better lace up your shoes before I get there. All right, so he just gave a warning. All right, and he says, everything, every business transaction or anything pertaining to finance must be transacted in the name of the Moorish Temple of America or Noble Drew Ali. And so what he has just now expressed is that all transactions must be done in the name of your state or in your professional capacity as a member, as a party, not as an individual. Where we at? He says, we Moors must maintain a grand treasurer, just as in the days of our forefathers. He says, then you are a nation. Until then, you are nothing. So Drew Ali just told us that citizenship deals with nationalization, not naturalization. Drew Ali says that until you have a treasurer, I have a U.S. Treasury Department for my state. Until you have a treasurer, you are not a nation. So being adopted into somebody's nation doesn't mean that you've declared your national citizenship. Drali was speaking about nationalization, not naturalization. All right? He goes on. He says the emergency fund is issued by no book. The emergency fund is issued by no book. There's no bookkeeping. Excuse me. He says, but by an emergency card punched according to contribution and then marked on book. So you don't just get the benefits just because they're there. You have to punch your card, right? And then it is marked on book. Now that my card and my passport are aligned, I punched this card, which would have been my national my passport card. But this is just showing my book, ETC, either way, right? So he says, don't punch the individual card. He's saying punch the professional card. All right, or book. And remember, he said, when needed, act according to the law pertaining to the procedure of performing an emergency act. He's talking about banking, and he's outlining banking structure, steps, procedures, and he says when necessary. So this is a foretelling of things to come. He's saying when necessary, utilize all of these steps according to an emergency act dealing with banking. This is what he said. These are not my words. All right. All right. What does he say here? He says, the emergency fund is issued by no book, but by an emergency card punched according to contribution, then marked on book. That is the law, and the law must live. So he said House Joint Resolution 192 is the law. He says this is the law that we must follow in these economic times. And the law must live, he says. It must be adhered to. Now, I'm adhering to it, and I'm receiving all kinds of benefits in exchange for my contribution. Absolutely. He says, now listen here. He says, the government is behind me. The government. So he didn't say the Moorish Science Temple of America is behind him. He didn't say the Moroccan government is behind him. He specifically says the government. So he's talking about the government of USA. He says the government is behind me, and I must get behind you. For I must uphold and enforce the law. My mission is to save you Moors. So he's telling you that House Joint Resolution 192 has saving power for those who call themselves Moors, who were priorly identified as debtors rather than beneficiaries of the estates. Okay? He goes on and says, the heads of all temples, grand sheikhs or grand sheikhesses. So he's telling you that the role of governor, at least within our system, can be held by male or female. All right? In Islam, there is equality. Not only is there equality, there is equity. So everyone has the right, not only the right, but everyone has the duty to stand up and perform in these capacities. You know what I mean? It says the heads of all temples, grand sheikhs, grand sheikhs, must conform to the divine principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice are equitable maxims of law. Yes, they are. They are equitable maxims. So he just told you to follow exclusively in equity. All right? He says they must live the life among the members and be loved even as the prophet is loved. So he's saying that you can be loved just like him. Meaning we don't have to worship him as many of the Moorish Americans do, as many of the Christians do to Isa alayhi salam, and even some Muslims of the Arabic ideology. They worship Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and some of them even worship Ali ibn Talib radiallahu anhu. I'll be honest with you. I love me some Ali ibn Talib, right? But I'm not worshiping it, right? He says they must not practice. Yes. Where is my highlight? Yes. So this is about to show you that Islam, as presented by Jurali, is nothing like the Nation of Islam, the Nuwabian Moors, the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths. We're nothing like that. We are nothing like those organizations. Why? One second. That's my booby cat. All right. So we're going to listen to this Muslim tell you something very important. So, as a Muslim, these are the instructions. First and foremost, he said, we'll go back to the front. It says, the heads of all temples, grand sheikhs, and grand sheikhesses must conform to the divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So that's equity, right? That's honoring everybody, right? They must live the life among the members and be loved even as the prophet is loved. Now listen. They must not practice the principle of segregation among any group in his or her temple. Why did he make reference to segregation of groups? You see in a lot of these black pseudo-national movements that there is hate projected towards other peoples on the planet. Islam does not allow for that. You will know a foreign Muslim from a true Muslim by how they treat another Muslim. If I come to you as someone from Italy, right? You're from Italy. And I say, hey, you're pale skinned. You can't be Muslim. I have now removed myself from the shield of a Muslim by trying to say, hey, you're not one of the people. Who am I to determine that? That's up to the state. That's not up to me. Right? Or to go a little further, for an Italian to be a Pennsylvanian, if I say, yeah, you're not a real Pennsylvanian, who am I to determine that? You can't be. Who am I? I'm not Allah. I'm a servant of Allah. In order for me to be in good standing, I have to treat all of Allah's subjects in honor. So he says they must not practice. He's talking about the leaders now. They must not practice the principle of segregation among any group. Any group. So there's other nationalities sitting here in these khutbah, in these meetings during Jummah. There are Arabs, Italians, Greeks, English, Turks, Arabian. I said that. Egyptians, Hindustanis, all kinds of people are coming to the temple of Islam to learn. And there should be no segregation due to, oh, you're light or you're dark or you're from there or you're from, none of that. And we see a lot of that prevalent in these quasi-Islamic movements. The Moorish Divine National Movement is not to separate or segregate. People like Taj Tariq Bey, he's not a true Moor. People like Raz Mariah V. Bey, not a true Moor. Yes, they are of Moorish lineage, but they're not following the prophets, so they're not prophets Moors, you know. Anytime you hear specifically someone who says that they're Moorish American, or even these knuckleheads that are Moorish American but want to be Moroccan American, right? When they talk about excluding other nations of people from Islam, that means they don't know jack about Islam. They don't. I have been a student and practitioner of Islam, of Al-Islamiyah, since 2001. Since 2001, it was the unity that was being spoken about in Islam that brought me to it. When I first came to Sunni Islam, I was able to stand next to a brother who I had a Malcolm X moment. I'm standing next to someone who I was told prior to could never be upright. This is my celly, yo. My celly getting soups and all of that. And he looking out for me, not because I'm his celly, but because I am a Muslim. I love that brotherhood, right? So anyone who is telling you that you can't be Muslim because of some type of outward appearance or because of something that you yourself had nothing to do with, I didn't ask to be born in Pennsylvania. Anyone telling you that you cannot be because of something that you didn't have anything to do with, get them out of here. Get them out of here. So again, all of your renegade Moors or foreign Muslims, all of the Moorish Americans in the temples, they're acting real foreign. During the time of Drew Ali, there was all kinds of people in the temple. Now, you only see people who would be identified as African Americans in the temple. Well, where's everybody else at? Again, this is one of the reasons why I try to explain to the people that the temple organization is now within yourself in spirit. Because the physical brick and mortar, which really still isn't that, but it is now your state. Your state is your temple union. And your temple state, your nation state, does not practice the principle of segregation among any group within the state. Let me continue. It says, let it be he or she that is head of any temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that if there should come any grievance that cannot be settled by the head, notify the prophet at once. So, if there's issues within your state that need to be justified, and it can't be justified through, who did it say? By the head. So the head would be whoever, I would say the lieutenant governor. It says that if it can't be handled through the lieutenant governor, the head, then just go to the prophet. Go to the governor. The governor say so, has sway. You dig what I'm saying? He says, no member is to attend the adept chamber that has not lived a moral and clean life and has not paid his or her dues or assessments, providing that he or she is willing or able, cannot consider himself moral. You cannot come to the adept chamber. You cannot expect to hold a title of secretary, treasurer, lieutenant governor. You cannot come to adept chamber if you're not right within. If you don't know the qualifications, if you haven't done the work, if you haven't lobbied for the people, if you're not within the circuits known as someone who is truly lobbying, then you cannot be a head of the temple. And he also explains, or you cannot be a part of the adept, right? Meaning the board of directors. You can still be amongst the people, but you cannot be on the board of directors. That's the adept chamber. Those who deal with the finance. Right? It says no member, okay. He says, but traitors must be excluded from the books. Traitors must be excluded from the books after having fair trial by the head of their temple. So, if the governor finds you guilty, or if they find you acting in bad faith, your seat is vacated. Your official capacity, your official office is vacated. And this is specifically if you're working and you're able and you're not contributing, right? All of these things. It says, but traitors must be excluded from the books after having fair trial by the head of their temple, and that must be sent into the grand body. So the memo has to circulate that this individual is no longer acting in this official capacity. Everyone must know who deals with the finance in the adept chamber of the heart, the chancery, the Beckley. Right? It says, and all members that are able to subscribe towards the uplifting fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. So he's telling you, if you can go out there and work, go work. Feed the Social Security fund, because it doesn't just work for yourself, it works for everybody else who's a part of the state. If you are able, and go do it, and then you claim it with this. You claim your compensation with this rather than this. But give. In Islam, we have been prescribed what is called zakat. Zakat is the balancing of the commercial sides, right? Where there may be people who are beneficiaries that cannot provide, those who are fiduciaries provide on their behalf. Here, there's a portion of mine that I offer. I'm donating this to assist these brothers and sisters who have yet to get themselves in the position that I'm in. That is zakat. That is sadaqah. Okay? That is a mercy. That is a provision from the rich to the poor to balance the scales, to balance the commercial liability. Right? He says, and those that are able to subscribe and fail to act are not Moors, but traitors to their cause, and traitors to their cause and their trust and their nation. and are not allowed to share all of the Moorish honors, nobility, credit, credibility. The Moorish honors is credibility. Okay? He says, and the penalty is, it is embezzlement of the faith of our creed. All heads of all temples must observe these laws. So the Grand Sheik in your temple, he's an embezzler of the faith. Broswell Bey, Jones Bey, Dandrugel, Pleasant Bay, Cosmo L, I'm trying to think of those who are actually saying that they are heads of temples. But these people, they're not even, we know that they are embezzlers because they're not even operating, they're not telling you to utilize the Emergency Banking Relief Act. They're telling you come to this temple and give all your energy and they're telling you to do to the temple what you're supposed to do to the state. And they're not even telling you to come back into the state. They're telling you to stay in the temple. So all of your grand sheiks, don't kill the messenger, man. That's what y'all like to do. But the message is what it is. These people are embezzlers because they're not telling you about nationalization. They're not telling you what happened in 1933 gave you the authority to align with your state and discharge your affairs according to the state instead of the temple. Right? And this is the issue not only for the Moorish Science Temple of America, but for all religious organizations. All of them. Your masjid, your temple, your synagogue, your church, your monastery, right? If you're not giving back to the people, if you're not bringing the people back to their security, to their secured banking, potential, if you're not bringing them back to that, you're embezzling them. What purpose would there be to join the Moorish Science Temple of America right now? Right? Let me put y'all through something, right? This is for all of you who may not be familiar with the Moorish Science Temple of America. You yourself may be someone on the outside looking in, right? So let me fill this in for you, right? We're going to find out for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America even founded? What was the main objective? Most Moorish Americans know that part, to uplift fallen humanity. But they miss this part. the mission statement for the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, which became the Moorish Science Temple of America. The mission statement is to uplift fallen humanity and to teach those things necessary to make men and women of our group better citizens. Better. He says better citizens. So he's telling us we're already citizens. And we need to learn how to operate equally with the rest of humanity. The temple was meant for everyone to come in. It says to uplift fallen humanity. Let's be a little more specific, right? Because again, I hear people always talking about uplifting fallen humanity. And then I say, well, how do you do that? And they give me all of this nonsense. Okay, before I do that, before I read this, I'm going to show you this so that you know this is not just me adding information. So the book reference. All right. By an honorable brother, Sheikh Wael. All right. This brother has done a lot of research into the movement, and honors to him. 100. Fuck if you don't like it, right? Anywho, he has for us the copies of the original filing of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, okay? So we're going to look at that real quick, all right? And then we look at the trust corpus, right? The body of work. What does it say? To uplift fallen humanity and to teach those things necessary to make men and women better citizens. It says to uplift fallen humanity and to teach those things necessary. Hold on. There we go. And to teach those things necessary to make men and women become better citizens. All right? So this is what the movement was about. It's definitely not about what you see today. All right? So now, let's read again. Let's read what Noble Drew Ali says about his organization. All right? This is now called the Moorish Science Temple of America. Right? Hold on. Because we're going to show progression, right? I need y'all to see this. We're going to show progression. Okay, so this is the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. My bad. It's the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. All right. Where is it chartered from? It's chartered from the state of Illinois. Okay. We see here that they are hold on, citizens of the United States. Look, we got Drew Ali, Lomax Bay, right? Citizens of the USA, all right? And again, this was filed November 29th, 1926. All right. Mm. Mm. So now this was filed July 20th, 1928, right? It is now the Moorish Science Temple of America, okay? So this reading that we're about to read is 1928, all right? The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Aside from the fact that it is a legally organized religious corporation, it is building on human needs. To this desirable end, in time, legitimate means will be found to dispense charity. The Moorish Science Temple of America does not do that. And provide for the mutual assistance of its members in times of distress. The Moorish Science Temple of America does not do that right now. To aid in the improvement of health, the Moorish Science Temple of America does not do that right now. And to encourage the ownership of better homes, the Moorish Science Temple of America does not do that now. To find employment for our members, the Moorish Science Temple of America does not do that right now. To teach those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, such as obedience to law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America does not operate in this capacity right now. It is most earnestly hoped that the Moorish Science Temple of America will not in any way be confused with any Back to Africa movement. The Moorish Science Temple of America right now is recognized as some type of black identity extremist. Black means back to Africa. He says such is not important insofar as American citizens of our group colonizing Africa are concerned. So he just told you that we ain't got nothing to do with it. Whatever's going on in Africa, the Moors that colonized Africa, we're not them. We don't have anything to do with that. This movement doesn't have anything to do with that. He just told you that, right? We of the Moorish Science Temple of America, like countless other American citizens, so everyone in the Moorish Science Temple of America is an American citizen, thus says the prophet, know that we must live together here in America, not in Morocco, in harmony, friendship, and goodwill, whatever our race and creed may be. The Moorish Science Temple of America does not operate in that capacity, and none of these nut-ass Moors out there in the world are operating in this capacity right now. Right now. Listen, it is only from a purely religious standpoint, so it's only from an economic standpoint, it seems at this time that we differ from a large number of our fellow Americans. So Moorish Americans are not, erased it. We're not aliens to America. We're not aliens. He just says that the only difference between the Moorish Americans and other Americans is that we practice Islam. So anyone who practices Islam in America qualifies as a Moorish American. Not just descendants of Moroccans. We're Moroccans. No, you're not a fucking Moroccan. You're an American. But anywho, pardon. He says we believe in and foster the Muslim religion. We feel that the Christian religion is all right for those who prefer it. All of these Moorish Americans out here, whether they're in the temples, out the temples, they're all out of their goddamn minds because they're out here telling everybody what religion they should be And they're ridiculing people over their religious beliefs and then getting upset that the same thing is happening to them. Fuck is wrong with you? Can't be out here talking about Christianity is why whoop whoop whoop, and then expect people who follow that path to not come at your neck. Right? These people, they're not true Moors, yo. Listen. He says, we believe in the principles of its teachings insofar as they can be adopted to American life. That's the Muslim religion. We feel that the Christian religion is all right for those who prefer it. In America, religious freedom is guaranteed all under the Constitution. But you have all these Moorish Americans who are now showing, what did Drew Ali tell us that we was about? Tolerance and unity. You don't see none of that operate through the Moorish Science Temple of America right now. None of it. None of it. Right? He says, we are interested in freeing ourselves and our children from the greatest plight, economic slavery. So we're talking about slavery and economics. This is why he was telling us to get the HJR 192 when it comes. We were economic slaves. We weren't brought over here. We weren't brought over here. We've been over here. And I'm going to prove that in the next reading. Right? Listen. We are interested in freeing ourselves and our children from the greatest plight, economic slavery. So he told you what your mental slavery was. He gave it a name. We believe that this can be best done by encouraging, patronizing, and establishing our own business enterprises and cultivating our own acres of land. I don't see any of that in the Moorish Science Temple of America. And he's talking about cultivating land here in America. So he's not telling us, again, to go anywhere to seek any type of recognition anywhere else on the planet. Your authority is here in America. Right? He says, we welcome into our folds men and women of our group of all sections, of all trades, of all occupations, and of all professions of sound mind and good character. I've never heard to this day. I came to this particular movement in 2012, 2013. I have yet to hear any Moorish Science Temple of America say, hey, we got employment for you. Because I've been looking. I've been looking. And I have yet to see any MSTA where I could go in with my ID and say, hey, I would like to work here. I would like to work in one of the establishments that is umbrellaed by the temple. Can't do that. We had, back in those days, we had that. In these days, we have that, but it's not through the temple. It's through the state. He says, we are friends and servants of humanity. He said we're servants of humanity. See, a lot of these Moors, they don't want to be servants. You know, they want to rule as a dictator, not rule as a steward. A steward is a servant of the people. It's still a ruler, but it's a servant. You know. He says we are dedicated to the purpose of elevating, uplift, of elevating the moral, social, and economic status of our people. So he just told us what it meant to uplift fallen humanity. What did he say? We are dedicated to the purpose of elevating the moral, social, and economic status. So we're supposed to be equaling out, right? He says, we have set about to do this through a wide and comprehensive program embodying the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So there's a whole program, and I got it, that's supposed to be being taught, that's not even being taught. Most Americans don't realize, they don't know that their slavery is economic. You still got them over here arguing about what happened in Europe. What the fuck happened here? And that leads me to my next, all right? This is for all of the Moors out there, or not Moors, or whatever you want to call yourselves out there, who assume that Moorish Americans, in some way, shape, fashion, or form, have any allegiance to Africa. Because I hear you all, and I'm like, y'all haven't read a lot of these Moors. I know what they've read, and I know what they have not read, because I read through all of these. Come on now. All right. All right, definitely. Yeah, that's a breath. That's a long ass breath right here. Which one is that? Yeah, I may read that at some point. Right? Yeah, I'm gonna read that last. That's beautiful. All right. Here we go. This is number 30, and it's entitled Dedicated to the Sons of Man. Okay? Listen deeply, right? It says a maxim, the land of our fathers, the land where the gods, plural, love to dwell, the birthplace of the ancient Egypt land where civilization first saw the light of day. Now, since man has left his first religion, he has been suffering from a complex disease which in some way takes hold of his passions and desires. The misdirection of his brain causes him to become a living monster. He is a slave to his lower self. He works for the lower self. No scientists, which I am, nor doctors, which I am, have been able to find anything to effect the cure until the coming of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, absolutely, who comes from the East, bringing the light of new day. The Moorish divine movement built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The salvation for the nation. In deliberation of nations, no consideration is given to a people who are not of a nation. In 1774, the Europeans of this country took the birthrights away from a people whom they forced under bondage. They were not slaves. They were bound free men. The subsequent generation who followed them in this bondage, they were slaves. Why? because their minds had been subjugated to a European psychology, meaning that they were debtors by birth. That's the psychology. They were branded, they were branded with the name Negro and were separated from the illustrious history of their forefathers who were the founders of the first civilization. So he says in 1774, the Europeans put the Moorish Americans' lights out, right? That's the first thing. In 17, hold on. Yeah. So we find out we're going to do our timeline, right? Drali says that 1774, European feudal, because not all Europeans are feudal, right? But he's saying that a European feudal union of America denationalized the Moorish. So by Moorish, it means African, Asian, and European descendants of Muslim faith, right? It says, hold on. It says that, yeah, they took the birthrights away from the Moors. All right. So in 1774, Islam. So what they've done in the past is they'll give me some type of, they won't cut my feed. They'll just give me a strike. I appreciate that, Brother Lukman. All right, so 1774, the Moors. 1774, the Moors lost their nationality. Where? Where did they lose their nationality? They didn't lose it in America. Or, excuse me, they didn't lose it in Morocco. They didn't lose it in Africa. You're saying that in 1774, the Moors already in America lost their nationality. They lost their birthright, their citizenship. So they were already here. Right? Let's keep that in mind. Let's continue. This is entitled Demanding Hours. All right? Demanding Hours. The idea inculcated in the purposes of the Moorish Science Temple of America is to have everything that belongs to us as a nation that has become a part of another nation. Listen, just the same as all other European groups are doing. Let me reread that. The inculcated in the idea inculcated in the purposes of the Moorish Science Temple of America is to have everything that belongs to us as a nation that has become part of another nation, just the same as all other European groups are doing. So he just told us that there are European nations in America trying to declare and claim back what belongs to them here in the land. And he's saying we're doing the same thing. This is why Drew Ali informed his Moors to study the European. But let's continue. He says we must have the history of our forefathers taught to our children. We have ceased to calculate our history from the landing of the first 20 or the close of the Civil War. So what did he just say? He just said that we don't deal with none of this here. Oh, wait a minute. When was the Civil War? So from 14. So again, right? So he said that the Moorish Americans, we do not trace our lineage back to anybody first landing on this rock as slaves, nor do we identify ourselves as those people after the Civil War. He just said we don't identify as any back to Africa, debt related, none of that. He just said that we have nothing to do with that, right? He says, while all records of the tombs in the old world are proclaiming our glory to the nations, we have now come demanding that we be given the credit for the great work done in the past by our ancestors. We are not asking others to give these records to the world for us, but we demand that such records be broadcasted to the four winds by us and for us. Bufu, Fubu, right? By us and for us, right? He says, a pride that goes with the knowledge of great deeds will serve to cause our posterity to take heart and look into the vast future with a hope eternal. Such can never be done except that they be taught who they are and where they are from. Right here. Yes, we are demanding that these things be done, and we know that it will require some time before we have created that consciousness in others of our group to assert themselves likewise. But that day is coming when such will be the case. These are those days, right here, right now. Right? All right, hold on. This is entitled Our Dollars and Cents. Okay? You see how it's said though? Pardon. Our dollars and cents. All right? Listen to this, my people, right? Check this out. The doctrine of economic security. The doctrine of what? Islamism is the doctrine of what? The doctrine of economic security. Is by no means as widespread and intensive among Americans of our group. So he just called the Moorish Americans Americans. He didn't call us Moroccans at all. He didn't call us Africans at all. He did not. He said the doctrine of economic security is by no means as widespread and intensive among Americans of our group as the circumstances demand. And the more written is said on the subject, the better. Peace, peace, peace. We need to more earnestly urge conscientious support of the businessmen and women of our group in their chosen fields of endeavor. The greater the success of their business enterprises, the more open gates of opportunity there will be for our youth of today and tomorrow. Think of this fact. We need to urge that our business men and women build on the principle of service. So we're professionals. We need to urge greater cooperation among them to render courteous, honest, and efficient service to the buying public. So we're not just supposed to be keyed up, sitting in a little hold up area called the Moorish Science Temple of America, hooping and hollering. We're supposed to be outside with business. Business. I don't see that right now from the Moorish Science Temple of America. Right? Listen. They should not expect any support and patronage merely on the grounds that they are race men and women in business, but for the reasons that the service and the quality of their goods and products they sell are equal in value to the service and merchandise offered to the buying public by any other business people. So Moorish Americans are supposed to be out here doing all kinds of business. All kinds of business. And this is what Drew Ali is saying. This ain't what I'm telling you. This is what Drew Ali, he's telling you. We supposed to be out here doing. Let me continue. That's why I said embezzlement is the charge. What are we sitting in the temples for if we're not getting where's the economic security program that he outlined? Because he's outlining it right here, right? I will see it. Anywho, not saying that it was wrong. I'm saying that the people who are operating, they're not operating according to the prophet. They haven't even come over. They haven't even come over to the States. They're still trying to play in the temples. Anyway, they're trying to put old wine, where they say new wine in old skin. Nah, can't do that. Right? Anywho. There should be maintained a cooperative spirit among our businessmen and women to keep their business places as clean and sanitary as any similar places in any other section of the city. So again, Drew Ali was talking about doing business. Where is it at? Where is it at? I could do my business now. I let them know that, hey, you know what? This Moorish Science Temple of America stuff, yeah, I'm a part of that. I'm saying I'm a part of that, and that I've taken those principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, right? And I followed the instructions of my presiding officer, who told me, when the time comes, act according to the law of performing an emergency banking act, right? I did what he told me. I can go work now. I can go work now. I got a card I got a nationality card issued to me by my state that says, hey, we got you. Whatever happens to you, we got you. And I got one that says I could go around the world with that same security, that economic security. I'm not a commercial liability. I see everybody going to the MSTA. Y'all, your liabilities. You're not even running around doing business with this. If you're a part of the Moorish Science Temple of America right now, you have a driver's license and or a state identification issued to you by your DMV or your local government, and you're doing business with your local government, and you're going to your temple with your temple membership card, and you're paying dues, and you're not being afforded any of the stuff that's supposed to be given to you by the state. You're not in the state. You're in the district. Your Moorish Science Temple of America right now tells you, come bring your little piece of paper ID card. How are they punching that? We just read not too long ago that you're supposed to have this emergency card that you can punch. Anybody in the Moorish Science Temple of America punching them cards? I'm just curious. curious, right? Because I exchanged a debit for a credit. I exchanged my debit for a credit. And I have this in the form of a card. And I punched that motherfucker. I punched that card. Upliftment funds. Boom. Discharge. I don't see it in the temples. But we all have the same information, right? We all have the same information, right? Drew Ali told you to get down with House Joint Resolution 192. I'm the only one. I'm the only Moorish American on it. A lot of these Moors out, y'all clowned me. You said I was crazy. How can you be a citizen of a corporation? I'm not a citizen of a corporation. I'm the member of a corporation. I'm a citizen of the governing body. Right? A little shit you hear. Anywho. Listen here. Citizens of our group should cultivate a sound vision when it comes to the necessity of buying professional service, merchandise, and provisions, etc. This is Drew Ali, y'all. Sound like this man's talking big business. I don't hear none of that out the mouths of everyone coming talking about they are the Moorish. I'm the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's in me. We should look beyond the direct result and object for which we invest our money. We should lose sight of the mere fact that we received a dollar's worth for a dollar spent. We should keep firmly in mind the necessity of keeping each dollar spent as much as possible within the spheres of our own activities, where they will create further openings of business enterprises and wider opportunities for the men and women of our group to procure soundly remunerative employment. I do that with this. I do that with this. Everything I just read. I do that with this. Listen. He says forward. So pro, right, must be the watch word. So profession, profit, to speak forward. He just told you to be prophets. He told you to stop dealing in wages and start dealing in profits, is what he just told you. Listen. Forward must be the watchword of the seller and the buyer alike. We make the money and we spend the cash. Let us sincerely cooperate one with another. Our plight will change when we change ourselves. He said the plight. Remember, in the last reading, he said that the slave, the greatest plight was economic slavery. This says, he leads off again, the doctrine of economic security, and ends it with how we change this plight. Drew Ali has been talking economics from the jump, from the beginning. Okay, we're good. All right. we still got this to deal with up here, right? Let me get to that. Let me get to that now. Right? So we got timelines. So let me just go ahead. All right, get that up there, and let me find, because we about to chew the fat, we about to chew the cud. No. Where did I place that information? There we go. There we go. Okay. So, this is also a publication that we present with a new fame, American Nationals University for Economic Industry Network, right? And this information here, we have Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, treaties, etc. Please tap the screen, y'all. Right? Subscribe if you wish to participate and be active. The brother right there, paid subscriber. This is why he can tell you. Tap the screen. Right? Show some love. I'm giving y'all some real shit right here. Some real heat. But anywho, so we have the Articles of Confederation, right? And this was 1781. So this was before this right here. Right? Drew Ali told us that the Moorish Americans, their birthrights were taken from them in 1774. Where? Here in America. We were told that the slave trade has nothing to do with these Moorish people here in America. 1787, we have a treaty between these Europeans of America and these Moroccans of North Africa. Right? This treaty was not meant to identify Moorish Americans as Moroccans. Supposedly, we'd already had our light put out because we were the Americans. We are the Americans. When you hear Moors and they bring up this Treaty of Morocco, and they say, yeah, Moors aren't citizens of the United States. This is a treaty between America minus the Moorish. Minus the Moorish, the American Moors here were supposed to be party to this treaty. But they were hushed. So, we're not those Moroccans, we're not those Moors of Morocco that treated with America. We are America. Niggas ain't, I don't know what's wrong with a lot of you all. Right? So we have this Treaty of Morocco. Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right? So let me show you. Again, I just need to go ahead and bind it, but we have the letter of George Washington to the Sultan Muhammad ibn Abdullah, right? We have the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787. All right, so this came first, and then this letter comes from George Washington back to the Sultan. Okay? Remember, Drew Ali says that the Moorish Americans, our birthrights were taken here in their lands, but they were taken unjustly. So we still have birthright here. So any treaties that America goes into, the Moorish Americans are party to that treaty on the American side, not on the Moroccan side, Tripolian side, Madridian side. Those are our family, yes. But we don't have the same legal relationship here in these lands as those people in their lands. We're all one family universally. We're one human family, but we all have different nationalities to tie us to our lands of origin. Allah has given provision for all of his creatures to be on his land and his dominion. So we all have our own portion. There are Moors of America who are not under the same citizenship as Moors in Africa or as Moors in Asia or as Moors in Europe. Right? But let's read this here, right? Because we got a lot of people. These Moors, these brothers, they go really hard. They want to be Moroccan instead of just Moroccan descent. They want to be Moroccan not just by descent, but they want to be subject to Morocco. They don't want to be here. They don't want America to be their home. All right? They want to be aliens. All right? It says, to all persons to whom these presents shall come or be made knowing, whereas the United States and America and Congress assembled by the commission bearing date the 12th day of May 1000, by their commission bearing date the 12th day of May 1784, thought proper to constitute constituent members John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson their ministers plenipotentiary, giving to them, or a majority of them, full powers to confer, treat, and negotiate with the ambassador, minister, or commissioner of His Majesty the Emperor of Morocco concerning a treaty of amity and commerce, to make and receive propositions for such treaty, and to conclude and sign the same, transmitting to the United States in Congress assembled for their final ratification. And by one other commission bearing date the 11th day of March 1785, did further empower the said ministers plenipotentiary, or a majority of them, by writing under their hands and seals, to appoint such agents in the said business as they might think proper, with authority under the directions and instruction of the said ministers, to commence and prosecute the said negotiations and conferences for the said treaty, provided that the said treaty should be signed by ministers. And whereas we, the said John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, two of the said ministers plenipotentiary, and it says the said Benjamin Franklin being absent, by writing under the hand and seal of the said John Adams at London, October 5th, 1785, and of the said, fuck all that. Let's get to the meat, right? This is a treaty of peace and friendship established between us and the United States of America. Okay, so this is a treaty of peace and friendship established between us and the United States of America. So this is Morocco extending the offer, right? Which is confirmed, and which we have ordered to be written in the book and sealed with our royal seal at our court of Morocco in the 25th day of the blessed month of Shaban in the year 1200, trusting in Allah, it will remain permanent. All right. So we got through all of that, right? So now we're going to get to the meat of this, right? Because this is the stuff that you hear Moorish Americans out there trying to, they want to identify themselves with these Moroccans. All right? Listen. Mind you, we are Americans. In 1774, someone said we're not Americans. But we Moors of America are not these Moors. We're supposed to be the United States of America in this treaty. Not, all right. Article 1. We declare that both parties have agreed that this treaty, consisting of 25 articles, shall be inserted in this book. It's a record. It's commerce. They're banking right now. Understand that. And delivered to the Honorable Thomas Barclay, the agent of the United States, now at our court, with the approbation that has been made and who is duly authorized on their part to treat with us concerning all the matters contained therein. Article 2. If either of the parties shall be at war with any nation whatever, the other party shall not take a commission from the enemy nor fight under their colors. Okay? So this is the first statement. If there is some type of commercial, if there's some form of indictment that's brought about to the United States, Morocco is not to be in any type of business commercially with that nation that has brought charges against the United States, and vice versa. This is what we're told, right? This is a commercial thing here. Article 3. If either of the parties shall be at war with any nation whatever, and take a prize belonging to that nation, and there shall be found on board subjects or effects belonging to either of the parties, the subjects shall be set at liberty, and the effect returned to the owners. So if you are a Moroccan subject in America, you'll be turned loose. If you are an American citizen in Morocco, you will be set loose. Right? It just told you between the subjects of one nation and the other nation. These are terms and agreements. This is a contract. This is a bill here. Right? Listen. And if any goods belonging to any nation, with whom either the party shall be at war, shall be loaded on vessels belonging to the other party, they shall pass free and unmolested without any intent being made to take or detain them. So we're saying that commercially, the United States of America and Morocco are in agreement, right? They are backing one another. This is what we're hearing, right? Article 4. A signal or pass shall be given to all vessels belonging to both parties, by which they are known when they meet at sea. A signal
or pass shall be given to all vessels belonging to both parties, by which they are to be known when they meet at sea. And if the commander of a ship of war of either party shall have other ships under its convoy, where he at? His convoy, the declaration of the commander shall alone be sufficient to exempt any of them from examination. Article 5. If either of the parties shall be at war, and shall meet a vessel at sea belonging to the other, it is agreed that if an examination is to be made, it shall be done by sending a boat of 2 or 3 men only. And if any gun shall be bred and injured, and injury done without reason, the offending party shall make good all damages. 6. Here's where they love to jump on this, right? Article 6. If any more shall bring citizens of the United States or their effects to His Majesty, the citizens shall immediately be set at liberty, and the effects restored. And in like manner, if any more, not a subject of the dominions, shall make prize of any of the citizens of America or their effects, and bring them into any of the ports of His Majesty, they shall be immediately released, and they will be considered as under His Majesty's protection. So he just told you about diplomatic and ambassadorship and the authority and the liability that the country assumes, and the liability that America as a nation assumes. But he said, if the Moors, I'm a citizen of the United States of America. If I go to Morocco, a Moor can bring me to the embassy. Yeah, I have that pass that was just spoken about. I have that pass, right? Look, I'm not a Moroccan, but I'm Muslim in America. I wear the fez. I know my bloodline, as well as my Jew Soli, right? Anywho, let's just get to everything that speaks about the Moors, because this is what these brothers and sisters, they're trying to enforce this information from the wrong side. They want to be the Moroccans because they don't recognize that Drew already told us that we were already here. We're the Moors from here. Those Europeans doing business with Morocco, they're doing it on our behalf. And Morocco, either Morocco does not recognize that we have been hushed, or they are in agreement and with the Bush too. Either way it goes, we are not Moroccan subjects. The Moorish Americans are not. We're American subjects. But we don't call it subject. We call it citizens. So we are American citizens. We're not subjects of Morocco. I'm not a subject of Morocco. This is not the flag of Morocco. This is the flag of the Moors. Anywho, Article 11 speaks to the Moors. It says, if we shall be at war with any Christian power, and any of our vessels sail from the ports of the United States, no vessel belonging to the enemy shall follow until 24 hours after the departure of our vessels. And the same regulation shall be observed towards the American vessels sailing from our ports be the enemies Moors or Christians. It sounds like everybody gets a pass. This sounds of tolerance and unity. This doesn't sound like what a lot of these wannabe Moors who want to do all of this extra shit. It don't sound like. But anyway, because again, they're trying to associate with this contract, and they don't even fit the qualifications. They don't even know which side they're on, and they're trying to pick the side of Morocco. Then fine, go to Morocco. No one's telling you not to. Go there, be there. Naturalize, because you're going to have to naturalize into Morocco, because you're not from Morocco. You're not from Morocco. You have Moroccan blood in you. You're from America. A Moroccan born in America is a Moroccan American. I am not Moroccan American because I'm not from Morocco. I am Moorish. I'm an American of Islamic pedigree. Let's see here. Speaks to the Mexicans in here too. Right? Let me see here. Okay, wait a minute. Here goes another one with the Moors, right? Article 21. These are the ones that specifically mention the word Moor. And this is why these brothers and sisters hang on this information, because they see the word Moor. And they don't recognize that we have brothers and sisters all over the planet. We're all of humanity, according to the Moors, are Moors. That's supposed to be the understanding. Everyone's a Moor. But they don't get that. Article 21, it says, if any citizen of the United States should kill or wound a Moor, or, on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place, and equal justice shall be rendered, the consul assisting at the trial. And if any delinquent shall make his escape, the consulate, shall not be answerable for him in any manner whatsoever. So, citizens of the United States, right? Citizens of the United States, right? Drew Ali. What does it say? Citizens of the United States. Citizens of the United States. The Moorish Americans are not the Moors we have spoken about in the treaty. We are the citizens of the United States. This shit don't pertain to us in the way they're trying to push it, man. That's some foolishness. That's foolishness. But again, you have all of these people wearing the fez saying they're Moors, or wearing turbans saying they're Moors. They're Moors, but they're not American Moors. They're foreign Muslims. They're foreign Moors. They're foreign here. That doctrine they speak, that's not what Drew Ali brought at all. At all. So, 1787, our lights were out. We were supposed to be the Americans. We are citizens of the United States. I didn't say it. If you're following Drew Ali and his movement, right, you're a citizen of the United States. Now, if you've taken his movement, right, and have deviated it to fit your own agenda, then that's foreign. We call that bid'ah. That is bid'ah. And that creates fitna. That leads back to jahiliyyah. That's what it does. It creates a munafiq. It's what it does. Murtadeen, you turn it back on what was given to you. Because there's all of this distraction in there. All of this distraction in there. You know? So, when Moorish Americans are speaking about these treaties, I'm telling you, Noble Drew Ali never made mention to these fucking treaties. Not once ever did he align us as Moroccans. He aligned us with. Meaning these are those brothers of that kingdom. They stood in solidarity with us. We had Gavrono Mustafa Abdul Ali, son of the Sultan who was exiled to, where was it? Cyprus. Right? So we had an actual Moroccan prince who was identified as an organizer of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Right? We had Azib Abdullah Karim al-Khattab, right? The leader of the Rif movement. Right? As a Moroccan, we had him over here as an organizer of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We had Abdul Hamid Suleiman and Dus Muhammad Ali, the Sudanese Egyptians that were over here, that were, as a matter of fact, Drew Ali found, that's where he found his seat. He found his seat with the Egyptian and then realized, okay, now I need to deal with the European and the Asian. And he brought it all together. He brought it all together. Right? Drew Ali was never out here talking about separate the people. I read earlier that Noble Drew Ali spoke about specifically that there is to be no segregation, no principles of segregation applied by any leader in the temple over any group of people in the temple. Why? Because there are many Muslims here, and everyone's equal. And at that time, people were dealing with color hatred. They didn't realize that everyone is equal and your skin tone, that stuff does not matter in Islam. What matters is your aqidah, your taqwa, your niyat, the things that are inside of you is what matter. What comes out of al-qalb is what matters more so than what, right? So we're dealing with unity. The whole, the ummah means the whole collective family, body, policy. Drew Ali was never telling us that we were another group within the whole. He's saying we are this group. We are connecting ourselves back with the family of nations. We have found ourselves in the whole scheme of things. But you got these brothers out here trying to be everybody but themselves. Trying to be everybody but themselves. For a while, I stopped wearing my fez, y'all. For a while, I did not wish to be seen in the public with something to me so dear as my fez. Because there are people walking around imitating Muslims and doing such a terrible job at it that those who do not know the true character of a Muslim become scared and afraid when they see a true Muslim. That's what's going on right now. For a while, I took my fez off my head, yo. Because I'm like, damn, man, everybody out here want to be Moorish American and they want to be everything but American citizens. It literally says Moorish American. So if you want to be Moroccan American, that still means you're an American citizen. If your nationality is Moroccan American, that doesn't mean you're the descendant of a Moroccan. That means that you are present currently the people Moroccan, and you have an estate here in America. I'm Moorish American because I'm the remnant seed of those Moroccans who established here. That's what makes me Moroccan through the blood, but it doesn't make me a citizen. It doesn't make me a citizen, right? You got all of these people walking around imitating Moorish Americans. And what's so funny is it's always the so-called African Americans that do it. Because there are a few pale-skinned brothers and sisters that I deal with from different nations who identify as Moorish American. And when you look at them, you would say, hey, they're from... I ain't got time for you, Shin. Right? One second. All right. So we have people out here imitating a Muslim culture. They're imitating Native American culture. They are imitating everyone's culture. They don't really know who and what they are. You know, they don't see the universal culture in it all. There's people out here still looking for themselves, and they ain't even looking inside themselves. All right. But I put my fez back on my head. Why? Because if I'm going to be the only one if I have to be the first one to officially represent the true Moors in this time, then I will, I can't take my fez off, and try to blend in or amalgamate. Right? So when I wear my fez, it's in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It's in honor, right? It's as an American. I know that there are others who wear the fez. The fez belongs to the Islamic mystic individuals, whether they be Muslim, Christian, or Jew, or Hindu, or whatever the case. Because this is all universal, right? I appreciate you all for checking in, tapping in, right? Moorish Americans are not a part of that treaty from the side that they believe that they're a part of. The Moorish Science Temple of America as a temple is not operating as a union in these days as it was being operated prior to the economic system. Drew Ali's information was an economic security program, long and wide and comprehensive program that he said specifically would be utilized properly when performing the proper procedures of an emergency banking act, right? Just letting y'all know what the truth is, right? This is Drew Ali led me to this. My brother, my equal, it's my brother. That's my brother. We both share the same title as professional. Drew Ali said there is but one issue. One issue to clear up your issues. There's but one issue to address, and that he was telling you, get back in line with your nation state. Get back in line with Allah. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. Absolutely. Go only to Allah. Seek only from Allah. Allah is your state. Your state is your state of mind. Everyone who believes in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they create Allah for me. We all believe in it. We all give it power. It becomes all law. Right? You all take care. I'm your brother, man, Davis Ali. Right? Just come to show you the way back to your own salvation. Make your Hajj. Get back in line with your Allah. Alhamdulillah. You all take care.